What's up, guys? Hope you're enjoying your time at home, not getting sick, of course. These are the notes over the monetary system. Before we get started, I do want to clarify that this is the exact shirt that I would be wearing as per my clothing chart if we were here today. So that'll make Grace happy and convince her that yes, I do have OCD, even though I do have OCPD, not OCD. Anyway, let me run through the ideas here, and you can take the quiz as I'm walking you through these, or you can do it when I'm finished, whichever one's more comfortable. The questions do go in order, so you should be able to follow right along as I'm going through it. But a couple things about money to understand before we get into what we're going to talk about tomorrow with the worksheet number 15, which is how the Fed controls the money supply. You have to understand why money is important before you understand how controlling the money supply is going to make a difference. So the first thing here is the definition of money. Now, money is anything that you can exchange for goods and services, okay? Now, when you think about money, obviously, what do you think about? You probably think about physical cash, American dollars, right? Dollars and cents. But realistically, think of anything that you could walk into a store with and walk away with money. It could be cash, it could be a check, it could be a credit card or a debit card. If you've ever heard somebody say, hey, can you lend me some money now, let me borrow money and I'll pay you back later. If that gets you something, you've heard the phrase, your word is as good as gold, right? So in a sense, their word is acting as a medium of exchange. If they get something in exchange for the fact that I'm telling you I'm going to pay you later or pay back the favor later or whatever it is, your word is acted like money. So anything like that, mostly we're talking about cash and checking accounts though. Those are the two most common things that function as money in our economy. So that's what we call a medium of exchange. Now that makes it handy because it can be universally accepted and can be broken down into smaller units such as dollars and cents. Now I believe we talked about this in Unit 1, but remember if we didn't have money, we would have to rely on bartering. Bartering is where I take the fruit of my labor, something that I've produced, and I try to exchange it to somebody else for what they've produced, okay? Now, when you do that, it's not very efficient. And there's a couple reasons why bartering is not very efficient. All right, number one, you run into the problem of what if the person I'm trading with doesn't have something I want, okay? So they might want what I have, but I don't have anything that they want, so a trade's not going to take place. The other thing is coming to terms on an agreement. Imagine somebody who makes cars versus somebody who grows apples, right? So trading one apple for one car probably doesn't make logical sense to the car manufacturer, nor would the car manufacturer want 80,000 apples or whatever it would take to equal the value of that car. And so bartering is not very efficient. It's not a very efficient method of exchanging goods and services. It makes much more sense, instead of bartering, to produce things, and then I take it to the market and I exchange it for dollars. Now I take those dollars and I go out and I buy everything in the exact amounts that I want. The right amount of apples, the right amount of toilet paper if you can find it, the right amount of hand sanitizer, the right amount of car, the right amount of gasoline, house, college education, all the different things that we buy. Okay, so it makes much more sense and it makes an economy much more efficient. So that's the classic definition of money, is as a medium of exchange. Now, other than that, you have three primary functions of money. This is what we call the role of money. The first one, which I just covered, was a medium of exchange. The second one is what's called a measure of value. Measure of value means that by having a universally accepted and understood currency, we can express the value of something in that currency, and it's something that makes sense to us, that we understand. Again, let's take money out of the equation for a second and assume we were a barter economy. So go back to my example with cars and apples, right? Let's say the apple farmer did somehow convince the car manufacturer to accept 80,000 apples in exchange for a car, even though a car manufacturer would never want 80,000 apples because who needs that many apples? But let's say he did. So you go to the person and say, hey, that's a nice new car. What did that cost you? And the apple farmer says, that cost me 80,000 apples. Now, if you don't grow apples, that sounds like a lot, but what does it take to grow an apple? How many apples do you typically grow a season? If your product isn't apples, but giving legal advice, that makes very little sense to you. You don't have a good understanding of how much that car costs. On the other hand, you see someone driving in the brand new car and you say, hey, how much did that car cost? And they say $30,000. You have a sense of what that means. You know what it would take to earn $30,000. You know how to compare that car versus something else that might be more money or less money that $30,000 would be worth, right? So it makes it easier to take the things around us and say, this is what it costs, and now we get a sense of its value because we all understand we're using the same term, which is the particular currency that we use. And then the last one on here is number 3, a store of value, which simply means that we can save money and use it later. And you think about it, most people don't get paid every single day. Most people get paid either weekly or maybe even bi-weekly, okay? So you get paid at the beginning of the month, and for the next 2 weeks, you're gonna use that money a little bit at a time every day to purchase the things that you need until you get your next paycheck and so forth. Of course, it also is handy for saving for retirement, right? You can imagine if you were an apple farmer and the only way you could save for retirement was to save apples and hold them. Well, that wouldn't work very well because by the time you retire, those apples are no good. It's much better to be able to trade your apples now for money, and then you can spend some of that money now and you can save some of that money for later, maybe a little bit later, maybe a lot later. Okay, so the 3 functions of money. It is a medium of exchange, like I said, a measure of value, helps us express value in terms of a universal currency, and it offers us a store of value, meaning that we can save it later. All right, let me pause right now and say, Abby Kruger, you can go to the bathroom, so feel free to do that. All right, last point for today is kind of tricky, so try to follow me on this. What we call the time value of money. Okay, now there's 2 questions here we have to answer. The first question is pretty simple. I don't think you're going to struggle with this. The second question gets a little bit more complex. A little bit of math involved too. Not much, but a little. All right, the time value of money. So the first question, question number 1, is money more valuable today or in the future? It's a pretty easy answer. Let me give you a scenario. My 2 options are this. Okay, number 1, now if you're in here in class, I would say, I will give you $100 here in cash. Of course, you guys aren't here in class today. Let's say the option is this. I can either Venmo you $100 right now. So right now you send me an email and the first person emails me, I Venmo them $100 in cash. The other option is, what if I said, instead of getting $100 right now, come back in 1 year and I'll give you the same $100. So your 2 options are either get $100 right now today in your hand, or come back in 1 year and get the same $100. Now, if those are your options, you all would almost certainly take the $100 today. And there's a couple reasons why you'd rather have the money now. First of all, we assume some level of inflation, and that's the first point underneath here, right? So you kind of assume that as time goes on, money becomes a little bit less valuable, and so money buys more things today than it will in 1 year when prices are most likely higher, because we assume and expect some level of inflation, and that's certainly true. There's actually a more important reason, though, why you'd rather have the money today than in the future. Even if I could promise you that there was going to be no inflation over the next year, that $100 will buy the exact same amount 1 year today than it does today, you would still rather have the $100 right now, and the reason is the future is uncertain, okay, and that's number 2. There's always risk with the future. So, I told you can come back 1 year and get the $100. What if I'm not around a year from now? Maybe I've moved on and I'm teaching somewhere else or doing something else and you can't find me. What if you come back a year from now and lo and behold, I don't have the money anymore. I'm like, sorry, I lost it. I went to Vegas on a bender and I don't have the money, so sorry about your luck. What if, God forbid, one of us isn't around a year from now? I mean, there's always uncertainty when you're dealing with the future. So if those are the 2 options, you'd much rather have the same amount of money today than you would in the future. So that's a pretty simple answer to the first question. Is money more valuable today and in the future? It's much more valuable today. Here's the tricky part. Again, try to follow this. Question number 2, how much more valuable is money today than in the future? So this is based on a concept that I call your personal interest rate. And one of the reasons this is tricky is everybody has a slightly different personal interest rate based on your circumstances, your personality, what's going on in your life at the time, and I'll explain that in a second. But the idea is this. Okay, I define personal interest rate as the rate at which you are indifferent to lending money or keeping it. Now, what on earth does that mean? Okay, so try to follow this. Go back to what I said a moment ago. Okay, $100 today or $100 in 1 year. No brainer. I'd rather have the $100 today. Okay? Let's say I offer you, instead of $100 in 1 year, $101 in a year. Okay, so the offer is $100 today, or come back in 1 year and collect $101. most of you, I would imagine, would say, I'll still have the money right now. I'm not going to wait around for one extra dollar, okay? What if I offered you $102 in 1 year? Okay, $100 today or 102, and I'd still rather have money today. What about $103 and so forth? I'm going to keep upping my offer. At some point, you will say, you know what, that sounds like a good deal. I think I'm going to wait, and I'll come back in a year and collect a greater amount of money, okay? So there's a point at which, if I offer anything less than that amount in 1 year, you say, I'd rather have the $100 today. But if I offer you anything more than this amount in 1 year, you'll say, I'll go ahead and wait. So the example I give here in the notes, where's it at? Is down here, all right? So let's say your personal interest rate is 5%. That would mean that if I offer you anything less than $105 in 1 year, 101, 102, 103, 104, on all those offers, you say, I want my money right now. If I offer you anything greater than $105, then you think to yourself, that sounds like a pretty good deal. I think I'm going to wait, okay? So anything less than 105, you would rather have it now. Anything greater than 105, you'll wait a year to get it, right? If that's the case, your personal interest rate is 5%. So here's how you want to think about this. Okay, so let me draw this up here. So we're assuming that your personal interest rate is 5%, okay? So again, the way you're looking at it, what this means to you is that today, $100 is worth to you the same as $105 in 1 year. And again, here's the thing that's important to grasp. These two amounts to you are equal. Those are absolutely the same to you. $100 today is worth the same as $105 in a year, which is why if I offer you any less than $105, that's not a good deal to you, right? Because $100 is worth $105 in a year, you'd rather have the money today. If I offer you anything greater than $105, you say, I like that deal. I think that makes sense, and you will take the deal, okay? So this is the point. $105 is kind of your threshold. Think of it like that. Less than, no deal, I want my money now. Greater than, yes, I'll go ahead and wait. Another quick example, let's say that your personal interest rate is 8%. Okay, that would mean that $100 today is worth the same as $108 to you in 1 year. Okay, same concept, right? We're just trying to figure out how much, again, the question is how much more valuable is money today than in a year? We know it's more valuable, the question is how much more. Now, like I said, what makes this tricky is your personal interest rate differs from person to person and based on your circumstances in life. So for example, everyone out there, you guys are young, your personal interest rate, to be honest, is astronomical. In other words, it would take a lot to get you to not take money right now. And the reason why is over the next 10 years of your life, you all are going to be huge demanders of very expensive things. Things like college educations, which aren't cheap. Things like cars, homes. Maybe some of you are going to start your own business. You're going to start a family, things like this. These things cost a lot of money. Now, in fact, not only are you not willing to part with your money and not spend it, a lot of you in the next 10 years are going to borrow a lot of money you don't even have because you're so desperate to get money now. You're going to borrow money to go to college. You're going to borrow money to buy a car. You're going to borrow money to buy a home and maybe start a business and all these other things. Okay, so right now, your personal interest rate is astronomical. That's just the stage of life that you're in. Flash forward 30, 40 years. Okay, you're in your 50s. You're at the peak of your earning career. Your kids have grown up and moved out of the house, right? Now it takes very little to get you to part with your money. And a lot of people in this stage in life, they are putting a lot of money away for savings and retirement to make sure that they're going to have enough because right now their personal interest rate is much lower, okay? And then again, it's also a personality thing. Some people are natural savers. They put money away and they hoard and everything else. And some people spend money like it's going out of style, like it's on fire, and if they don't spend it, it will consume them. So it differs from, you can't say that there's a personal interest rate that fits everybody. It's different person to person and based on circumstances as we go throughout life. But everybody has that point at which you say, yes, I will save it, or no, I won't. Okay, that's your personal interest rate. And again, the most important thing is the way you look at this. Okay, $100 today is worth the same as $108 in 1 year. Okay, so if you think of it that way, the questions that you see on the test are going to make sense. So There you go. Those are the notes over the monetary system. Remember, tomorrow we're going to do worksheet number 15, and you're going to submit that through the assignment. Just take a picture of it, or you can scan it if you have that capability and upload it, and that'll be all that's due tomorrow. And then the following day, I will post a video of me explaining worksheet 15 in case there are parts of it that don't make any sense. There you go. Enjoy.